Dear friends, I'm glad to welcome you on this fascinating journey into the world of ideas, discoveries, and inspiration. Today we will talk about something often hidden behind the great works of brilliant thinkers, scientists, and philosophers. We will ask ourselves the question, what spiritual beliefs, religions, or absence of faith did the greatest minds of humanity belong to? Throughout history, worldview has often become either a foundation or a challenge for creative minds. Sometimes religious tradition inspired people to create new concepts, while at other times a complete rejection of the supernatural opened the way for innovative thinking. To understand this better, let us take a look at the lives of great individuals and their beliefs. Let's begin with ancient times. In antiquity, religion and philosophy were deeply intertwined. Socrates. He left no writings of his own, but his student Plato passed down his ideas. Socrates believed in the existence of a higher reason. Unlike the familiar gods of Olympus, he can be described as someone standing between religious faith and philosophical search. Plato. For him, the idea of supreme good in the immaterial world became the foundation of all philosophy. He did not reject the gods, but saw them more as symbols of truth and perfection. Aristotle. He spoke of the first cause and the unmoved mover, a philosophical concept of God based not on religious cult, but on logic. In the ancient world, faith and reason often merged into a single quest. Even materialists like Democritus, who affirmed the existence of atoms and the void, remained in dialogue with the religious traditions of their time. With the arrival of the Middle Ages, religion gained enormous power. Almost all great minds of that era were connected to faith in one way or another. Augustine of Hippo. His philosophy was fully permeated by Christianity. He sought to combine ancient thought with the biblical tradition, creating a coherent doctrine of God and man. Thomas Aquinas. One of the greatest Christian philosophers, he attempted to prove God's existence through rational arguments. His work became the foundation of Catholic philosophy for centuries. Al-Ghazali in the Muslim world and Maimonides in Judaism also tried to unite reason and faith, showing that philosophy could strengthen religious foundations. For many thinkers of that time, faith was not just a personal conviction, but part of a worldview where science and philosophy were inseparable from spiritual concepts. As science developed, more freedom in worldview appeared. Copernicus, who proposed the heliocentric system, remained a believer, but his discoveries caused heated debates with religious authorities. Galileo Galilei also believed but argued that religion and science should exist in parallel, without interfering with each other. Giordano Bruno held more radical views, expanding ideas of the universe and rejecting the limits of traditional beliefs. His ideas led him to a tragic end. In the 17th century, a real breakthrough took place. René Descartes, the founder of rationalism, believed in God but viewed him through the prism of reason. Spinoza developed pantheistic philosophy, where God is identical to nature. For his time, this was revolutionary. Newton, who discovered the laws of mechanics, was deeply religious, though his views sometimes differed from official religion. He saw science as a way of understanding the Creator's design. The Enlightenment brought new ideas about faith and reason. Voltaire was a deist. He accepted the existence of a higher reason, but rejected dogmatic religions. Diderot and Holbach were materialists, skeptical about faith and emphasizing the autonomy of reason. Jean-Jacques Rousseau leaned more towards spiritual search, speaking of a religion of the heart rather than dogmas. It was in this period that atheism began to clearly form as a philosophical position. If earlier atheism was seen as a rare exception, it now became an intellectual alternative to religious systems. In the 19th century, the world learned many new discoveries that forced a new look at faith. Charles Darwin, the author of the theory of evolution, was long a believer, but his research shook traditional views. He was not a militant atheist, but rather a man of doubt. Karl Marx promoted a materialist understanding of history and rejected religion as a social phenomenon. Friedrich Nietzsche became famous for his critique of traditional faith. His philosophy became a symbol of reevaluating spiritual values. Fyodor Dostoevsky, on the contrary, through doubts and struggles, affirmed Christian faith, highlighting the inner spiritual battle of man. The 19th century showed how diverse beliefs could be even among geniuses living at the same time. Some completely rejected religion, some found inspiration in it, and some balanced between faith and doubt. The 20th century brought even greater diversity of worldviews. Albert Einstein was not an atheist in the strict sense. He spoke of a cosmic religious feeling. His views were close to Spinoza's pantheism. Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg, the founders of quantum physics, also emphasized the spiritual dimension of science. Stephen Hawking, on the other hand, leaned toward atheism, believing the universe could be explained without a creator. Carl Sagan spoke of science as a spiritual experience, though formally he remained skeptical of traditional religion. In the 20th century, pluralism appeared more clearly. Some great minds remained religious, others became atheists, and still others sought compromised forms of spirituality. At this point, we'll end the first part of our great exploration. We've seen that throughout centuries, faith and non-belief were inseparable parts of the worldview of outstanding people. In the next part, we will examine more examples, discuss what conclusions can be drawn from this diversity, and try to understand how personal faith or atheism influence the greatest discoveries. Dear friends, let's continue our fascinating journey into the world of brilliant ideas and worldviews. In the first part, we traced how ancient thinkers, medieval philosophers, Renaissance figures, and the scientists and writers of the 19th and 20th centuries related to religion or atheism. Now it's time to delve deeper into this topic and see what patterns can be found. First, it's worth noting that the greatest minds rarely followed dogmas literally. Even if they were part of a specific religious tradition, they sought personal understanding of truth. Isaac Newton believed in God but rejected the dogma of the Trinity, which set him apart from the official church. Einstein said he did not believe in a personal God, but felt the harmony of the cosmos. Tolstoy in his later years rejected official orthodoxy and created his own religious and moral teaching. This shows that for great minds, faith did not always mean adherence to a particular denomination, and atheism did not always mean denial of spirituality. Atheism among great minds was most often not denial for its own sake, but an attempt to build the world on a rational basis. Bertrand Russell believed truth should be sought only through reason and science. Jean-Paul Sartre developed existentialist philosophy without God, emphasizing human freedom. Hawking said later in life that the universe is self-sufficient and needs no creator. For them, atheism was not just absence of belief, but a philosophical system providing answers about man and the world. On the other hand, for many great minds, religion itself became a source of creativity and strength. Mikhail Lomonosov believed in the harmony of God's design and saw in science a confirmation of this harmony. Dostoevsky turned to Christian faith, exploring through it the depths of the human soul. Blaise Pascal experienced a spiritual turning point, after which he created a philosophy of faith based on personal experience. For these people, faith was not a limitation, but a space of freedom and inspiration. An interesting phenomenon is the geniuses who tried to unite science and spirituality. Vernadsky developed the concept of the new sphere, where the reason of humanity and the cosmos merge into a single system. Erwin Schrödinger was inspired by Eastern philosophical traditions when reflecting on the nature of consciousness. Rabindranath Tagore, the great poet and thinker, saw in art and science manifestations of spiritual harmony. This shows that religion and science are not always opposed. They can complement each other. Looking at the great minds of the past and present, it becomes clear. Among them were believers, atheists, and seekers of new forms of spirituality. There is no single path that defines genius. Believers found inspiration and strength in religion. Atheists sought truth in reason and science. Synthesizers combined spiritual and rational elements, creating new concepts. Genius is not directly tied to a particular faith or lack thereof. It is more expressed in the ability to think deeper and broader than tradition allows. In the 21st century, this tendency is even more visible. Today we see great scientists, philosophers, and thinkers, some of whom are believers, others atheists. Moreover, the boundaries are becoming blurred. Some call themselves agnostics, others advocates of spirituality without religion, and some combine different traditions. In the modern world, the value lies not in strictly adhering to a certain belief system, but in the ability to engage in dialogue. Great minds are united not by belonging to religion or atheism, but by the pursuit of truth and readiness to question. So, dear friends, we have seen that the greatest minds of humanity belong to the most diverse worldviews. Among them were Christians and Muslims, Jews and Buddhists, as well as atheists and agnostics. What united them was not what they believed in, but how they searched for truth. Some found it in God, some in nature, some in human reason. But all of them strove for knowledge and understanding that went beyond familiar boundaries. Thank you for your attention, dear viewers. Thank you for joining me on this journey across centuries, religions, and philosophical systems. May the example of the greatest minds inspire us in our own search for truth and harmony.